Hi, good morning. Yes, as I said, my name is John Mills, CEO of Xaar, and I'm joined today by Paul James, who's our CFO. Today I'd like to take you through our full year results. I'm pleased to report that revenue for the group was up by 12%. And this was largely driven by strong growth within the Printhead group of 22%. And one of the key contributors there was the commercialisation of the wax printing for jewellery, where we saw substantial growth in that market. And to underpin, we still retain the discipline of maintaining the margins and driving margin growth in the business, both through stock turns and through yield and other improvements. And as we grow the business, it's really important that we support customers in our regions, and that's why we've established an Asian hub in China to help supply the system components that we'll talk a little more about later on in the presentation, along with the ability to actually demonstrate our capabilities within that region. So Xaar is, we have many competitors, and they are typically large Japanese corporates with huge scale and reach. And so one of the key questions to understand is, why do we win? Why does Xaar win in this incredibly competitive environment? And the real answer to that is that we have a unique capability, unique architecture of the printhead. And what that does is it allows us to print fluids that nobody else can print. And that breadth of window of operation is the thing that allows us to move into new industrial markets with increased uptime and increased performance. And that technology is actually protected in several different ways. Firstly, we have over 147 patents, which give us global protection on the IP. But also we have embedded in 32 years of manufacturing a lot of process know-how in how to manufacture those printheads. The other, and increasingly important, is actually the applications engineering. So how do we actually use the printheads in the application itself? And you combine all of that together, we feel that our technology is very well protected. And what all of that enables is for us to actually deliver to the end user a capability that doesn't exist with any of the competitors. And that will allow them to switch previously analog processes that were previously unable to be switched to digital, now to be able to use digital print, which gives the obvious benefits of reduction in cost, waste and energy. So all of that really delivers significant value to the end user. And so now, before I go into the details of the business model and how we go to market, I just want to hand over to Paul to take you through the financials.
Okay, thank you, John. So, I'm very pleased to report something of a classic year. It can be characterized as a year of growth, investment, and in one part of our group, turnaround. We have seen significant growth in many printhead segments, stabilization where there has been a decline, and in the group's US business, something of a turnaround under new management. Overall, group revenue is up 12% year on year at £60.1 million, driven by printhead revenue growth of 22%. Megnajet was slightly up at 2%, and EPS in the United States down 10%, but we expect to return to growth there in 2026. Adjusted before tax comes in at £0.8 million, beating consensus by 8%, a small but significant victory. Similarly, although net cash is down year on year at £4.9 million, we exceeded consensus by several £100,000. This result was driven by enhanced levels of investment year on year, as well as the decision to buy shares to help avoid dilution at their inexpensive versus strategic value. We are now starting to report on free cash flow this year, and going forward as a key alternative performance measure, this outcome will mainly be driven by trading performance and the choices we make supporting the business in the most efficient way possible, as well as investing in growth. Now let's look at the divisional detail. Of the three divisions, Printhead is the standout in terms of both scale and performance. Revenue is up 22% year on year, but within the detail are some even more impressive results. What I call pure printhead sales are actually up 27% and print bar sales up 31%. Smaller categories such as ink and system components also show significant double-digit growth, albeit smaller scale. This growth is driven by new segments, and John will talk more about that later, but I will highlight that after years of decline, the ceramics market seems to be stabilizing. This means a headwind with which we have lived with for a long time and served as a constraint on growth is likely to have dissipated. What is also pleasing to report is the improvement in gross margin performance, with an increase of 300 basis points, 3 percentage points to 40% in printhead. This improvement in profitability is even more stark at ABP at adjusted profit before tax level, highlighting a key attribute of Xaar, the operational gearing benefit of increased volume, provided we keep a lid on costs. Of the 22% increase in revenue, well over half of this is due to volume. The rest, a combination of mix and pricing. Now, I would describe Megnajet as broadly flat year on year, but it provides an important role in supporting other parts of the group with its key technologies, and intergroup sales were sharply up. EPS revenue is down, is driven by the unexpected end of a multi-year contract and the lack of a credible business pipeline at the outset of last year. However, new management have focused on turning around the business, dealing with certain seemingly intractable issues, including the need to restructure the business and take costs out of product. This largely explains how they grew gross margin profitability despite the decline in revenue. Indeed, the watchwords for EPS are project execution, a fatter pipeline, and better business discipline. If we now turn to the group income statement, you'll see, first of all, the 300 basis points improvement in gross margin driven by volume growth. Operating expenditure, or OPEX, has increased at a rate of 11%, but this is to do with rebuilding capability and having the right skills and resources in place to drive and indeed cope with significant growth. Now let's have a look at cash flow. We are inaugurating free cash flow as a key alternative performance measure to look at from now on, and it's worthy of some commentary. Working capital is broadly flat year on year within the context of a sharply expanding business, and inventory is a particular area of focus for management after several years of holding elevated levels. Management is now focused on long-term year-on-year improvement in stock turn, a continuous improvement if you like, and I would consider an increase of half a stock turn a year as the very minimum we should deliver. As for capital expenditure, the big ticket items include investing in additional capacity to turn around delivery of holistic solutions more quickly and an additional capability to demonstrate our technology to customers. We've also had to swallow some increases in lease amounts across our estate on renewals that were largely completed at the back end of 2024. Now with that, I'll hand back to John.
Right, thanks, Paul. So one of the key things that has been a real change around in Xaar has been really the execution of our strategy. Our strategy is really to focus on the areas where we have a unique competitive advantage, and that is being able to print fluids that no one else can print. And this competitive advantage that we have can be exploited across multiple markets. Historically, Xaar's been very strong in a single market, dominated that market for a period of time. That market has gone away and then resulted in a reduction in revenue. Going forward, we have a much broader application base. We now have 21 separate markets where we have multiple customers in the majority of those markets. So having seen that, one of the key strategies is to make sure that we have a broad base of applications so that we have increased resilience in the business and we're not relying on any individual market. And therefore, in terms of execution, our strategy here is to basically go through each of those markets and find a key account, and we will support that account to make sure that customer gets to market. Once that customer has got to market and has actually demonstrated capability and market growth within their sector, what we found is that actually their competitors will then come to us to actually understand how that they can access our technology. So that halo account effect has been really positive, and we've seen that particularly in the wax printing, where we now have a number of the major OEMs globally coming to us mainly because of the work that we've done with the first. We'll continue to actually make R&D and develop new technologies to support this differentiation, and increasing the support of our customers, and increasingly having the ability to support our customers in different geographical regions is also very important, and we'll continue to do that. In terms of access and go-to-market, this is really the thing I would really like everybody to understand, the challenges that we have faced over the last 5 years. We sell a component into an OEM, so somebody who makes equipment, and then they will sell that equipment to an end user who will then use that equipment to do some form of printing or coating. We also sell to user developer integrators, so these are people who buy our heads and they develop a solution for themselves. And these companies, they have a journey to go through using our technology. And that starts off with actually developing a fluid, developing ink, and most of them, because they now have the opportunity to have an ink that's much high viscosity, much high pigment loading, there is a piece of work that needs to be done to develop that fluid. And that can take 6 months, 18 months elapsed time. Once they have that fluid, they'll start developing a machine, and that machine development can take several years. And once they have that machine, they then need to start commercializing and working with their end users, which then requires an element of the industry accepting this new solution. Now, that whole journey can take anywhere between 1 and 5 years. And what we find is that what we need to do is to find ways to reduce that time frame. If we can get our customers to market more quickly and more reliably, then we will see less attrition of customers that approach us in the front end that actually deliver revenue. So the revenue growth that you've actually seen in 2024 was actually down to relationships that we started 4 years ago. And the revenue growth that we hope to see this year will have been based on the relationships that we developed several years ago. So once we've actually developed those applications, we look into some of the key ones. And the key ones that we talked about previously, jewellery wax, that's now commercialised in the market. We've seen substantial growth in revenue with jewellery and wax. EV battery and automotive coatings, the OEMs have launched the product. We're now in the kind of customer accreditation phase, and it really depends on how quickly that market grows. And then desktop 3D, we're pre-launch. If you actually were to Google the CJ270, you'll see there's a lot more on social media ahead of the launch, which we expect to be in the near future. And so one of the key messages from this is that it's very difficult for us to actually predict the timing of the commercialization, because we sell a component to an OEM who sells it to an end user, and we have to try and guess with the OEM how the market will respond and how quickly they will develop their product. So over the last few years, there's been some times where our estimates of when things have launched have been incorrect. So we're going to not avoid giving you specific dates on those things, but you understand how challenging it is to get that right. I think the other key message to get across here is that I don't think anybody should invest in Xaar for any specific application. The key thing here is that there are 21 application areas and there are multiple customers in each one. It's the portfolio of those which will incrementally add revenue over the years and give us much more robustness against any individual market going into decline. So in terms of the getting the customer to market more quickly, if you're developing a machine, then typically it's not just about the print head. You need to develop an ink system, electronics, software, and then you need to put it all together in a printer. And a lot of our customers don't have those capabilities, and it left to their own devices, it could take them 5, 6, 7 years to do all of those things. So over the last few years, with partnerships and through developing our own solutions, we're now able to offer a new partner a range of complementary products which shorten their time to market. All the way through from having electronics and fluids and ink systems to a fully integrated print bar or print engine where they literally just plug it into their line and turn it on. And increasingly, we're actually seeing people asking for a fully turnkey solution in the market. And one of the things we are very proud of is that our support is actually now being recognised by our customers and by the rest of the market as being world leading in support. And what does that actually mean in terms of the different market sectors? As Paul's mentioned, the legacy business that we've had and has been in decline for many years, that feels to be have stabilised in there and it's come down quite substantially. The real star of the show really is the 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. And we see that's the area where the biggest growth in the future will be, because many of the applications that are in the pipeline fall into that 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. Packaging and textiles has had a good year. It's a relatively small number. That may go backwards a little before it goes forwards over the next period of time, but really it's in the 3D printing advanced manufacturing that we should see this most growth. So, in summary, we are really focused on delivering a differentiated offering. We're not trying to compete with our competitors head on. It's all about competing where we have a clear value proposition of printing fluids that no one else can print. We're pleased that our legacy markets have now stabilised so that the new growth, the new revenue that's coming through will be visible in the top line. And we see operational opportunities within the business to improve margins and to support our customers around the different regions. And we feel quite confident. Ourselves and the board feel confident about the future of the business, despite the challenges that seem to be present in the world at the moment. Just like to thank everybody in the room for coming and everybody online for their attendance. Wish you all a very good day and thanks very much.